What's up, guys? With the divisive nature of Woman in the Yard, I'm seeing it all over X and, even like news articles and whatnot. I figured I want to do, and all the spoilers, to try to maybe discuss the final act and the ambiguous nature of it. So anyway, let's get started.
I don't come unless I'm called.
What is up, guys? Welcome to all the spoilers for Woman in the Yard. I wasn't even planning on doing all the spoilers for this movie. Usually I review the movie and then I move on to the next thing. And I was actually going to edit a Working Man review that I recorded a couple of days ago. But man, this Woman in the Yard movie has just been on my mind. And I did touch on the divisive nature of it in my spoiler-free review, and I think currently this movie still sits at 41. I haven't input my critic rating in there, so maybe I can kick it up to 42. Who knows? I don't even think it has that many reviews, maybe 30, 40 reviews or something like that in there. But let me just take you back, because this is a very ambiguous ending, okay? And maybe I'm not fully right as far as what the directors, the storytellers, the writers, whatever, their intentions were for the end of this movie, because I read a lot of articles and whatnot. But when I was watching this movie, and again, this is spoilers, okay? So if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want to know, then you don't want to watch the rest of this video. But I remember I'm sitting in the theater watching this movie, and by the way, the audience was just rip-roaring. They were so actively involved, engaged in this movie, jumping at every jump scare, getting angry at the screen, you can imagine, but in a good way, in a really good way. And they cared. I think that was the biggest thing about this movie. And you know what? Even if half of those people that were in that theater walked out and they were angry at the movie and they didn't like the movie, I love that a movie brings out an emotion in people. Don't you hate when you go into a movie and when you leave that movie, you feel absolutely nothing, just rinse and repeat? And just to tell you, a Working Man, that's pretty much how I felt. Yeah, there was some fun action in the movie and it was fine, but that movie's just going to be dumped from my brain as soon as I put out the review. But A Woman in the Yard, this movie is going to stay with me for quite a while because of how heavy the themes are, and how controversial the themes are. Because let's rip the Band-Aid off here, okay, and talk about that final act and what the ending meant. We'll start with what I thought it meant. And I think that's the good thing about ambiguous movies, and really art in general. That's what movies are, people. They are art. And you can choose to take an ending and form your own opinion as to how it affects you, what it means to you. And, this wasn't an ending that's like, okay, this woman literally shot herself in the head and then the credits rolled. No, it wasn't that at all. She's went through this whole ordeal with the Woman in the Yard, which is, she's really just a manifestation of suicide. Today is the day is what she keeps saying throughout the movie, the Woman in the Yard. And it all leads up to this. And the ultimate, I don't know if goal's the word, but the ultimate idea of this movie in the end is that Ramona is going to take her life. This is what she has been pretty much preparing for. This is why she doesn't give a care about anything. And they say people that are, I don't even know if I can say the word on YouTube without getting flagged, so I won't say the word, but I think you know what I'm talking about. People that are in that state, they tend to be at ease, and they are actually kind of content. And so in this movie, she's on edge throughout the whole thing, and I think she really wants to protect her children. Time and time again, she's getting on to them. She's overreacting. She takes things out on them, like she takes it out on the daughter, and especially on Taylor, her son. So I think Ramona is just really conflicted throughout this. Am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? So fast forward to the end of the movie, and the Woman in the Yard is pretty much giving her the gun, telling her to do it. And she brings the gun to her mouth. And you think, oh my God, is she going to do this? And in my mind, as I'm watching this scene, I'm thinking, how am I going to feel if she actually goes through with it, because this stuff does happen in real life. And what's the overall message if that actually does happen? But then, before I could even like fully rationalize how I would feel, she pulls the gun back and she sees the bunny that her daughter left her. And then she decides not to do it. And there's a moment in the movie, if I can kind of describe my thought process and why I didn't think she did it. There's like a crane shot view of the house. And if she did do it, I was just waiting to hear a gunshot, because we see that scene play out so many times in different movies. If they don't want to actually show the death, you just hear a loud gunshot, and that elicits an emotion from the viewer. You heard nothing. And I was like, oh, maybe she's not going to do it. And then the next thing you know, you see her like walking out of the house with her children. And then the last thing you see is, everything's brighter, happier, and you see this sign. And there is a backwards R on the sign, and that kind of reflected back to earlier in the movie when the daughter was having trouble writing her R's. I took that as sort of maybe a tribute to her daughter that she was doing, I really took this as a hopeful ending, as a really kind of a happy ending. She chose to live for her children. And so as I walked out of the theater, that's exactly how I felt. So then today I get on the computer, and I saw so many people that didn't like this movie, and maybe some that even liked the movie, that were telling me, no, that's not what I took from the ending at all. She actually did go through with it. And so then I started doing my own research, and most of the news articles, like even Screen Rant, was one of them that I read, and they basically stated that, yeah, she actually did go through with it, and she was pretty much in a mirrored type world after it all. And maybe in her own mind, she thought she didn't do it, but she really did. And that does kind of floor you, but I still choose to see the movie in my own way. And, I love movies with just really ambiguous endings where the viewer can take from it what they will. There was like big discussions on Reddit about the ending of this movie. There is a Wikipedia, which one of the members that was in the thread that I was talking about, he said, hey, right here on Wikipedia, which anybody can write in Wikipedia, but, somebody pretty much took from the movie exactly what I did, that she didn't go through with it. And I think there are a number of people out there that took the ending in a different way. And I think that can only be intentional from Yomei Colette Sarah's point of view. Like, if you're a director and you're wanting to show that a character took their own life, I think you want to dot the I and cross the T on that, underline it, underscore it, do whatever you got to do to make the audience know, hey, this is exactly what happened. But this ending did not play out like that at all in my mind. It felt very ambiguous, and, maybe the viewer can take from it what they will. Maybe if you have been in this situation before, have had those thoughts in your head, maybe you might take the end of this movie in a more hopeful light. I did see a few commenters, in my comments stating that they could relate to Ramona and what she was going through in this movie. And I would imagine a lot of people can. And those people are still here, thankfully, to make that comment. So I hope and pray that, most people don't take from this ending something that sends them down an even darker path. I don't want art to ever do that, to send people down a dark path and maybe, God forbid, go the wrong way. Art can be dangerous. I think it really can. And I think, we see this with musicians, we see this with filmmakers, and they have fans that are just so passionate about their work that they might take from their work, and do something horrible. Like there was an instance with Silverchair, with Daniel Johns being the lead singer, and he wrote some pretty dark stuff in their very first album. And that band was only, I think, 14 years old when they wrote that album. But one of their fans literally took their own life, and they were listening to that song. And, I think that type of stuff can really mess somebody up, mess the artist up. I hope this movie wouldn't do something like that. But I do love the movie. And I do choose to take, I guess, the hopeful ending that this movie offers, right? And I guess the next question that I had for myself, like if I thought that she did go through it in the end, would that have made the movie bad for me? No, because I think I've seen so many movies. I mean, Seven has a tragic, horrible ending. So I don't mind movies with dark endings as long as the story leads up to that. And the story does kind of lead up to, will she or won't she? You know, it could go either way. The fact that it did send a positive message to some of the viewers, I think that's a good thing. But I have to admit, it didn't send a positive message to all the viewers. And where does that land as far as accountability? The artist has the right to make any form of art that they want. And they might have a completely different meaning in their mind than somebody else on the other end of that. You know, they might do something horrible because of the art that they just saw. And it could be very positive art, and they could still do something horrible because of one certain thing in that movie just might, you know, trigger them. Bottom line, I think these types of films are important. If anything, this movie definitely caused a discussion. And I think sometimes discussions come out of really tragic events, real world events, not just movies. And sometimes when you get a group of people in a room and they start the conversation off with something really depressing, maybe that conversation can lead to the good side of things. And maybe this movie can offer something like that. So I loved the themes of this movie. I loved that it makes you question things in life and really maybe even look at your own life if you have a similar situation, if you've been in a dark place. So that's my overall thoughts. It was more of a discussion on the ending and, you know, I guess what we all can take from it. And I love that it's actually a really divisive movie, you know. The last thing I will say, because it seems like lately, this year in my comments, there's always a couple of people, and people do like to stir things up to poke and prod. This day and age, people, they seem to get upset that I, in their words, like everything that I watch. I do look for the good in just about everything that I watch, and my approach as a reviewer is to always try to showcase any good, because I think in any art, there's always good in there, you know? And I'm not the type of guy that just wants to completely shit on everything, right? Because I know the work that goes into making a movie. I know how many people are behind the scenes making a movie. And I do think there is good in every movie in some form or another. To counter that, I don't like everything that I watch. I think some people, they have such a short attention span that they watch the first half of every video that they watch on YouTube. Don't lie, you probably do it. I do it too sometimes. And maybe only thing you hear is the good side of the review, because I always start with the goods. Occasionally I'll start with the bad, and I might start just doing that now, just to let people know, hey, I do have problems with movies. Even in this movie, I had a cons section, you know? That's just how I work. But how dare I like anything about any review that I do, even though I've given negative reviews to a couple of movies that I've seen this year, and I've even stated that this is a very meh year so far. There have been a couple of standouts, but not like last year. That's where I stand, and I make no apologies as far as movies. I'm a movie lover first and foremost. I don't get to review everything, and there's a lot of really, really bad, crappy movies out there that I don't even bother reviewing. If I reviewed every Netflix movie that came out, then you'd see a lot of negative reviews, because a lot of the stuff they put on Netflix is complete shit. Because of my time, I don't have the time to review a lot of the really, really bad junk out there. You know, I just kind of focus on the mainstream stuff. And if I find a deep cut that I really, really like, I got to tell you guys about it. So yeah. So anyway, guys, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I think you see where I'm coming from. Again, you know, let me know what you guys think of this movie in the comments. Had a lot of great discussion in the spoiler-free review. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, be sure to come over to Kill a Flick, where we talk horror all day, and on Fridays we do FIFA Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Become a channel member. Buy me a coffee. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and Drumdum out.